Hello everybody, welcome back to another Trailmakers video, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make mouse controlled steering for airplanes and spaceships. Now I want to explain what this tutorial is and how it's different than the normal method. Okay, so you may have seen this method before where you basically just have aiming servos with fins on it, and I'll show you what that looks like, because this actually is probably more effective than what I'm going to show you, but it does have a few drawbacks. So this is the current way of doing it, and it works really well. Don't get me wrong, this is probably the best way to do it, but of course there are two main drawbacks that I can think of. A, it looks ugly, and then B, if you turn too sharply, they invert on themselves, and then you have some weird stuff going on. And then you have to like try and turn backwards in time. And it's just very frustrating. And then one little side note, these do not work in space. The method I'm going to show you today will work in space, and you can turn around without it inverting, and you can also fit it on jets that look nice. So here is the method that I'm going to teach you guys how to do. This method was inspired by Yuzi, and I will link his video down in the description below. But basically, so if we take off and activate it, now wherever we look, the plane will go and it will try and level off. And if you've ever played War Thunder, it's pretty similar to that. Like, it will roll and then it will slowly level off. If we go the other way, and then you can kind of go up, you can go down, and most importantly, if you fully turn around, it's actually going to match the direction. So if we turn around again, the plane is going to perfectly match. Alright guys, so without further ado, let's get on with the tutorial. Alright guys, so it kind of helps to understand what this is going to look like when we're all done. So this is the logic right here, and you can put this basically anywhere on your plane or spaceship. It's pretty big and pretty difficult to fit in, but as long as you can fit it in, this will work. So I'm going to quickly kind of show how it works. It uses the aiming servos to activate distance sensors, and thus a gyro, which points you in the direction. So this is why it's good for gyro controlled builds such as detailed jets or spaceships or anything like that. Alright you guys, so to make this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of make a line of blocks here, just so we have a platform to work on, and I'm going to put a seat on the end. And basically, this is actually pretty simple to understand. It's not that complicated. So we're going to want to get some aiming servos, and we're going to need one like that, and we're going to need one flipped this way, kind of like this. Alright you guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our aiming servos, and we're going to set the angle to 6 for both the left and the right. And we're going to set the speed to 2. And then this is optional. I like to set it to off by default, and then I like to have a button that activates it. Now, of course, this is mainly for PC and mouse. Now, I mean, I suppose this might work on console, but I don't really see the point considering you're already using a joystick. So this is mainly for mouse on, keyboard and mouse. But so I just like to set this to Alt, and then we're going to have it off by default. So now we have this here. The next step is we want to go into this tab and find our rounded corner blocks. And we're going to kind of make a little thing that looks something like this. Kind of see it right there. And now we're going to take our wedge blocks like this. There we go. You can see that right there. And then that's going to move like left and right like that. And then we're going to want to maybe just copy this over, and you can flip it this way. Same with this guy right here. Kind of just put that there. So basically, you have these two things like this. And then I'm just going to move it a little closer, because why not? Now, the next step is our distance sensors. And we will configure these later. I'm not really too worried about that right now. And we're just going to put them like that. And then you need to copy them over here. Except, put them in like there. And then flip these if they weren't already. I just messed that up. So you want one here like this, horizontal, and then you want them vertical here. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of color code everything, just so it's easier to understand. So I'm going to make this yellow. I'm going to make this green. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to get a gyroscope, because basically you want the plane, this step isn't essential. You don't have to do this. But for most people, you'd want your plane to kind of level back off when you're done making a turn, and this is how. So you're literally just going to have a gyro stabilizer that's always on. You can make it off by default and have it turn on whenever you start, but For this, we're just going to set it to 7. Doesn't have to be exact. And now we're going to get our normal gyroscopes, and we're going to want one for roll, one for yaw, and then we also want one for pitch. There we go. We got our 3 right here. And I really am not worried about the fact that it looks ugly right now, because I'm just showing you guys the mechanics, and then I'll explain how to use it. So, of course, this one is yellow, because this belongs to this, and I'll teach you guys how to link them up in a second. And then this one goes to the green. And this one also goes to the yellow. That's why color coding is kind of important. Or, sorry. Alright, guys. And then this gyro at the back, the one that controls roll, also goes to the green. Ignore the yellow color. Both these two go to the green, and you'll see why in a minute. So now, we can start hooking things up. What we're going to do is we're going to select both of these. Oops. Select one at a time just in case. And we're going to hook them into there. And then we're going to take these and we're going to hook them into both. Like that. And now, already, we can see how well we're working here. So, right off the bat, let's increase the strength of these and remove the controls. Unless you want controls, that's up to you. But I'm just going to increase the strength. Alright guys, now what we need to do is we need to select our distance sensors. And basically, we need to kind of really scale down this output. So, alright guys, so we're going to select these two right here, and we're going to set the distance to 0.1. And we're going to do the same thing with these green ones, of course. And then we can test to see how well things are working. And it does look like things are working as they should. Now, what is very important to do is we basically need to adjust these. So, if this green arrow is facing forward, and I want to explain this because this applies differently depending on how your jet is made, and I'll explain more in a second how you hook this up, because this is definitely a lot more work to get right than the other method, you know, just the tail fins. But basically, one of these outputs needs to be a -1, and then same with over here. And basically, whichever one is -1 will invert it or not. So like right now, looking down makes it go down, right, and then looking up makes it go up. But you can kind of see it right now. The steering was inverted. So of course we can just flip this to 1, and then we can try -1 on this guy. And then, as you can see, now this thing is working as it should. So real quick, just so you guys all understand what we did. I had this gyro that controls our pitch with the green facing forward. This one with the green facing right. And this one with the green also facing right. And we have on this top one a -1 output, on the bottom one a 1 output, and this one a 1 output, and on this one a -1 output. And when we activate, it follows and points towards our mouse. You can see when I look up or if I look down, and if I look behind me, the whole thing rotates to match it. You can kind of see that in action right now. So now this is done. This is the logic. Now I would like to explain how you actually implement this into a plane or a jet or really anything. Alright guys, to kind of demonstrate how you can add this to any plane, I want to take this kind of template vehicle that we have here. And the hardest part about adding this to a plane is of course finding the space to do it. So what I would recommend is actually not adding this to an existing plane, but building a plane around it. So just for simplicity here, I'm going to kind of remove the midsection of this plane, and we're going to try and fit this in, and you'll kind of see the challenge that I'm talking about. So I'm going to try and slot in this green bit, maybe right in here, and then we'll slot in the yellow bits about right there, just so it's symmetrical. And now we're not going to worry about these gyros right there. We're going to delete them, and I'm just going to put this here for now. And I need to explain how to actually rig this up. Alright guys, so I need to explain how to do this because this is where a lot of people might go wrong. So with this plane right here, the way we're going to handle it is, first of all, we need to find the gyros that control the pitch. So if we just kind of move this up, you can see them right here. They're labeled. Now, I'm going to paint them so you can kind of understand what I'm doing. These two control the pitch, the ones that are green. And we're going to make them yellow so they actually match. My bad. And then these three right here control our yaw and roll. So we're going to make them green. And that one also needs to be green. You can kind of see what we're working with here. So we need to just verify that green is facing the right direction on all of these, and it is. Green is always facing right, and then green facing down here. And now we can slot these back in, and we gotta wire them correctly. So I'm gonna take this top one real quick, and we're gonna find the yellow ones, these two. Now I'm gonna take the one underneath it, and we're gonna highlight those like that. And now, of course, if we activate it, yep, we're going. That's good. Next, we're going to take these, and we need to click these two, and these two, and then these two, and these two. And now we can see how well we fly. It may not be good. There's a lot of tweaking that goes into this. So right now, you can see we're already having decent results, but it is kind of turning a lot. Now, the way we can fix this, and this is where there's a lot of tinkering involved. This is different for every build. So, for starters, we have way too much yaw control, way more than we need. Now, what can we do about this? Well, if we pull this out here, we can just disconnect one of these, like that. You can kind of see right there. And then we have a lot of roll control that we don't need. So again, we can just disconnect one of them. Just like that. Disconnect that first one. We'll disconnect the first one again. And you kind of see, let's just double check that we disconnect the right one. Yep. Now, we have this kind of dampening one. And the one that isn't connected, we want to set to strength 10. Same with this guy right here. Yeah. We want to set this to strength 10. So it acts as dampening. Now, if we take off again, you can already see this is controlling way, way smoother. Like, this is actually usable. And now, if we fly around, you can see it really kind of just works. Do bear in mind that if you set the gyro strength too high, like I think I just did, I'm going to set it back down to 7. If you set the gyro stabilizer strength too high, you won't be able to turn. So make sure you don't accidentally do that, because that can be bad. And again, whenever you're kind of building around the aiming mechanism, just want to show it again. Whenever you're building around the aiming mechanism, you need to make sure it has enough room to move left and right. So, for example, I'm just going to kind of remove these real quick, just to make sure that it has enough room. And kind of see, yep, there we go. Now it has enough room. So just make sure that there's enough room for it to bend side to side. Otherwise, you should be able to put blocks around it. Should be fine. But right now, we have a fully mouse-controlled jet using no glitches and really no exploits either. And it's pretty advanced. We can fully turn around and it course corrects and fixes itself to face that direction. It's pretty fun to fly around. It's really easy to control. And best of all, as long as you're efficient, as long as you're efficient with how you handle complexity and how you handle space, you can fit this onto a lot of builds and you can end up making some pretty cool things. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Consider leaving a like and subscribing if you want to. And we also have a Discord server now. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.